Good evening, it's 5 o'clock, and it's time for the Bristol County Water Authority's monthly meeting. It's Thursday, February 27th, 2025. Looking around the room, I don't see any members of the general public here, so we'll move on to item 3, which is approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. One is for the public hearing on January 23rd. Do I have a motion for?
So moved.
Second.
Any comments, questions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's a unanimous vote. The next set of minutes is for the board meeting on January 23rd.
Second.
A motion to approve and a second. Okay.
Yep.
Any discussion? No. Hearing none. Have a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous also. Moving on to the executive director's report.
Good evening. Report for tonight's meeting. For the Pawtucket Pipeline connection, Bay is advancing the plans to 90% completion, taking into consideration comments received by East Providence Engineering Consultant. They've also received a set of comments from Rhode Island Energy regarding the gas lines along the route. So they'll include those comments into the 90% design. The current schedule calls for plans being completed in spring, summer of this year. Mike and I, we're going to continue to push the beta group to adhere to that schedule. I will tell you though, they are having some staffing issues, but we'll continue to push them to get this project into the hands of the regulatory authorities as quickly as possible. Easement documents being looked at by Joe Kia with his firm, and we have a meeting scheduled next week with them to go over those documents. For the demo of the water treatment plant, as you know, that remains pending. The meeting is scheduled, tentatively scheduled for March 13th for further discussion. I'm going to also alert some of the community folks in advance to let them know.
But they're going to be invited to that meeting?
Yes. Yeah.
Have we heard anything back from any of them?
Not recently. Nothing new. No. With respect to the dam, the last bit of work was actually took place just before the Christmas holiday. The site's been stabilized now through the winter. Come spring, there'll be just some minor grading to take place, cleanup, and there's extensive plantings that will be put in over there along the embankments. As you can see from the photo, I think it's pretty amazing. We got some eagles have moved in and taking advantage of the cleaner water and the fish that are coming in with the new tidal flow. I included an email and a memo that I received, I'm sure many others have, regarding federal grant funding. As you all know, that we received a considerable grant from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation for $1.9 million. And the initial email said that there's been a pause put on federal grant funding. That pause has since been rescinded, but we still haven't seen the money yet, right there. So we've got over $300,000 pending. We'll keep our fingers crossed. With respect to the lead service line program, there's been no work taking place over the winter. And we're just waiting to hear back from the contractor as to see when he'll be getting back on site to wrap up the 21 public side service scheduled to be replaced. And we'll soon be reaching out to those customers that have galvanized iron services, require replacements to determine their level of interest, having the private side services replaced, utilizing our the 5-year no interest program. For BCW properties for the past month, nothing to report, same for public information and the Department of Education. However, I would like to add for the Board of Education, as we move on to personnel training, we recently completed an ethics training for all our employees. That was yesterday morning, and spoke to the trainer there, and they can certainly come down and do an ethics training for all the board members at some point if the board.
They ran that in Bristol last month, week one, and I don't remember if Richard was there.
You did attend?
Yeah.
Oh,
We had
okay.
that, well, it was sort of, you come to this training now, so we attended.
So it's the same woman?
Yeah, from the
Yeah,
state, yeah,
yeah.
yes.
Water purchases, nothing really major to report there. Overall, we're still running slightly below the prior 5-year average. We have RFPs out for bond counsel and financial advisor as those 3-year terms about to expire. And then with also with respect to personnel, we've had the ads continuing in the papers for the two, well, for one water utility operator. And we will be doing testing on March 5th.
Did you get a good response? I saw the ads. So it was ads. Yeah. Did you get a good response?
Not like it used to be.
The test is too hard.
Do we only advertise in the paper, or do we advertise elsewhere?
We usually just do it here. Well, we do here the papers. We do use the professional organizations like Renown Waterworks, Living Waterworks as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Capital improvement project summary. Those tables, you'll see where those projects stand with respect to their renewing budgets. And that concludes my report for this past month. Not a lot.
Any other questions for the director? Mike?
Not too much else to add. This is a big response time of year. With the cold, we don't like to go out and touch too many things proactively, just in case they do break. It does make repairs that much more difficult. But the response is associated with both sensors. One such failure was with our AMI system. We actually try to keep this equipment up and performing optimally, and that comes from responding to if it's down, it needs to be fixed by the vendor, or even troubleshooting things like antennas and cables and connections to just make sure that they're communicating as best as possible, because we work with the vendor to track their performance so that we can see when performance dips and we can respond accordingly. Otherwise, the big response that people see is water main breaks. It's been cold this year, colder than it's been in the past few years, so I don't know if there's a little catch-up going on. These mains are old. Why they break, where they break, there's not a lot of good science for it. But we had a big jump this year. Some of it could be associated with the cold, some of it could be associated with the pressure increase in Barrington, but nothing that we couldn't handle. We had one weekend where we were out from Saturday morning straight through to Monday morning. So we had the jockey crews, jockey personnel, but we were able to manage everything. But yeah, the chart shows that the trend went up for the past few years, but unknown exactly why. Otherwise, we're gearing up for some yard improvements, gearing up equipment, and we're looking at getting going to support the improvement contractor from last year and the potential one that's pending, that's currently being solicited right now.
I had a question I forgot to ask earlier. The gateway unit, does that impact billing at all? We don't lose any data.
We don't, so we collect data two different ways.
Yeah.
The fixed system collects is grabbing as much data as possible, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When it comes time to bill, we look for missed reads. So there's a process where we'll physically go out and collect the reads necessary to bill.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Colin?
All right, so my report is focusing on the 2025 water distribution improvement project. So the requests for bids were published yesterday, Providence Journal, and all the documents, all the necessary information were also published yesterday on our website. So the bids are due on March 19th, and the bid award date is scheduled for next month's meeting on March 27th. As far as the lead service replacement program, we're still waiting on to hear from the state as far as funding and things like that to determine the scope of work. And then I included a chart that just kind of goes over briefly what the scope of this year's project will entail. So on Child Street, right outside, we have 330 feet. We're installing a 12-inch ductile iron water main, as well as cutting and capping some water mains coming from the water treatment facility. And in Bristol, we're gonna have about 740 feet of 8-inch ductile iron water main installed. That's stemming from the Gooding Ave.
Apologize for being late.
The corrosive, the water main that was corroded due to the soils. And then the last part is Ducon returning to do their work from the 2024 contract, the 21 remaining water service replacements, as well as any permanent asphalt restoration.
Is there any pre-bid comments or anything on that request for bids?
Yes, I brought the Projo ad with me. It's I believe it's on March 6th. It's a non-mandatory pre-bid at 9 a.m. here.
Do you recall how many bids we got last year?
I wasn't here.
So the answer is no.
We got 3 last year.
Okay, thank you.
Once you award that one for the Gooding Avenue and the Over Street, is there a time frame that you have set aside to accomplish that?
There's part of the project is a notice to proceed. That would be 15 calendar days since the signing of them. They would be expected to
Start.
commence the work, yeah, as long as all necessary permits and things like that are in order.
The schedule is for this construction season.
Yeah. Sometime in April, we'll go with it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Daniel?
Skip right over Andy, no need Andy. We're almost done with the year, up to January. All right, so if we look at January versus January, the revenue was up just a little bit. That's really just the rate increase exceeding the decreased consumption for the month. And expenses were up 9.24%, and that's mostly the water purchases for the month. Get to the 11 months ended January, things start evening off a little bit. So for the 11 months ended January, revenue is up 5.66%. Again, that's the offset of the rate increase has just been compensated for the decrease in water use. Actually, the water's been slightly flat since about April. We'll get to that a little later on. pretty much since April, the water use has been pretty consistent with the prior year usage. Expenses year to date are up slightly, 2.28, 22%. Some of that is we have to offset with the admin expenses being a little bit lower due to the monthly pension, so that helps. But we had some operation and maintenance being a little bit higher. We had some additional paving costs this year that we didn't have in the prior year. And the wages for operations is a little higher due just we had some open positions during last year, for a couple months here and there last year. And really the bulk of the increase is something that I stopped kind of talking about earlier in the year. It's just depreciation amortization expense being $153,000 more than it was last year. That's really the bulk of the increase in the expenses. If we look at budget actual, revenue's actually over budget, just over 11%, which is good. That's due to just consumption being a little bit higher than we budgeted. Expenses are also good. They're under budget by 10.63%. The biggest areas under are admin expenses being almost $183,000 under. Again, the majority of that is the pension contribution for the year being lower than the prior year. Water purchases being down about $345,000. Again, consumption's lower overall for the whole year. And professional fees just being down a little over $250,000. We just had fewer legal and consulting expenses than we budgeted. Pages 7 and 9 show the dollars billed and the gallons delivered. You can see the dollars billed are up 3.96%. The gallons delivered are down 1.45%. And the difference is really just the rate increase last year. Without the rate increase, we'd be down. And as I mentioned, March, there's a big drop in March compared to the prior year March. I had said that earlier this year. But since April, consumption's been flat. It's been 0.011% up. It's very tiny. So we've been pretty consistent compared to the prior year. Page 10 is a trust fund report. Debt service ratio is down just a skosh from the last time you saw it, 7.05. That's largely, we have a pretty decent size debt payment in January 15th. And you notice we're missing page 11 this month, the pension summary report. I actually didn't get it till about an hour ago. I didn't get it before I went away. I had to get the report to Warren. I came back, it still didn't come in. So I emailed Washington Trust. I do know that for the month and for the year it's up. It's up about $90,000 for the month of January. And it's at just under $3.9 million through January 31st. Again, sorry I didn't have that for this report, but I guess there's a glitch in their mailing because when I emailed for the electronic copy, they're like, oh yeah, you're not the only one. I'm like, oh good.
Any questions, Dan? Thank you, Dan. Next item on the agenda. Anybody have any reports from town council they want to share? No? Okay. The next item on the agenda is the quarterly write-offs. Yeah, okay. That's the one.
Yeah, this one you have to read.
Yeah, okay. So this is for information, and then the next item is board vote on annual write-off report. You have that in your package, and I'm looking for a motion to acknowledge annual gross write-offs in the amount of $46,684.60 less recoveries of $16,953.12, resulting in a net annual write-off of $29,731.48.
So, second.
Any discussion, any questions?
That was amazing. Well done.
I know my numbers. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, it's unanimous. 6, 7, 8, 9. We go back to Dan. We have a proposal for audit services.
Go back to me. All right, late last year, we went out for bids for accounting and auditing services for the next 3 years. We received one proposal from CBiz. They just purchased Markham. They had bid the last time as well, but under Markham. It was the same gentleman who did last time. So their proposed audit fees for 25, 26, and 27 are 40, 41,000, and 42,000. I had also requested, because I know we'll have a single audit for this fiscal year at least, potential for the next year, I requested that they have an estimated fee for, if you have a single audit, a need for a single audit, and that would be about $4,500 per major program, which I would expect one would have one major program. Again, we will have to have a single audit for fiscal 2025. There's a potential for 2026. I looked at the fees. The fees are higher than we had paid to the previous firm. I had bounced it off of Steve. I talked to Steve before the last meeting because I felt they were fairly reasonable, even though they were a lot higher than we've been paying. But I just wanted, it's been a few years since I've done engagement letters for an audit firm. So I just wanted to bounce off him if he thought it was reasonable as well, since he's in the business right now, and he agreed that they're reasonable. So I guess I just recommend approval of the.
I'm going to turn this over to Tom. I'm going to be recusing myself from the vote. I used Markham for probably the last 10 or 15 years as my accountant. So just to make sure there's no lack of impropriety, I'll turn it over to Tom.
Any questions or comments?
I just have one question for education. What does a single audit pertain to?
We receive some federal funds, so usually a single audit is just, it's an additional layer of audit. Steve could probably explain it better, I haven't done one in about 10 years, but it's an additional layer of audit where they do some additional testing.
Got it.
Under whatever federal program, they have a list of tests they have to do, and they have to do those tests, and they present a separate report.
There's a separate filing for that.
Correct.
I guess.
It-
That's what I got.
It's been a long
It triggers and if you're receiving a certain level.
Yeah, federal
of-
awards, you have to do a single audit under uniform guidance. Uniform guidance tells you what to test, what to look at, how much to test, and it's very straightforward.
Good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Any motion to accept and approve the proposal?
I'll second.
There was a motion, I guess.
Yeah.
There's a motion in a second.
Okay, all right, I heard this. All right, any other comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain. I am a direct competitor, so.
Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda, item number 10. There's a stack of stuff here. Turn it over to Steve regarding the Fountain Avenue tank.
Yes, this is a memo. Well, first of all, Mike put together a really good technical memo summarizing all the analysis and studies that have been done by our engineering that we requested regarding Fountain Avenue tank. And then my memo attempts to kind of summarize all Mike's information. But it's really for information regarding Fountain Avenue tank for the board and kind of the direction that we're heading in for next steps. But essentially, you know, I know we've talked about the high service area in Bristol. We also have the main service area that encompasses the remaining parts of Bristol and all of Warren. And then there's the low service area, which was considered Barrington. And it's considered a low service area with the Fountain Avenue tank in service because the elevation of the Fountain Avenue tank is lower than the elevation of the tanks in Bristol. And we had some initial concerns with respect to the water age in the area of the Fountain Avenue tank and how that may impact disinfection byproduct with the new regulations for disinfection byproducts. And one of the how the formation of disinfection byproducts is how the chlorine reacts with organics in the water over a period of time. And how the Fountain Avenue tank was operating, it's it's essentially it's a standpipe, so you're getting the head and pressure from the tank, but basically you have a lot of water just sitting in the tank, not moving a lot, which increases the water age in the area around the tank, which is an area where we sample for disinfection byproducts. So we had Power Engineering do a water age analysis, pressure and flow analysis, using the hydraulic model first and foremost. We want to make sure, if we're going to take this the tank offline, what impacts we'll have. And the analysis found that it would, it basically increase the pressure all throughout Barrington. Barrington with the tank in service, the pressure is modest. It wasn't great. But with the tank off service, it now runs off of the tanks on Metacom, and so that increases the pressure throughout Barrington, almost between 15 and 20 pounds. I certainly noticed it at my house. But importantly, it does reduce significantly the water age in the area of the Fountain Avenue tank. One of the other things we were also concerned with was how it would impact fire flow. And taking the tank offline actually improves fire flow for the majority of Barrington, all of Barrington. So in early September 2024, we took the tank offline to conduct a tank inspection, which hadn't been done in over 5 years, so it was due. And this was done by an outside company that specializes in tank inspections. And it wasn't any surprise to us, but the tank does require full rehab. Requires all new tank coatings. It needs to be painted inside and out. And the cost of this is approximately $750,000 to do. Additionally, the town of Barrington and Verizon has recently expressed interest in using the tank for cellular infrastructure.
So my question would be, are they going to pay for the use to hand something off? Are we?
We're going to put out an RFP, okay, and how these things typically work. Now, it was Verizon that came to see us, but I don't think we can just exclusively negotiate with Verizon. So we're going to put out an RFP. Letting companies know that the tank will be, available for cellular infrastructure. With the idea they'd be entering into a lease agreement with the authority, and there would be monthly payments to the authority for doing such. The tank remains offline since September 2024. We've asked PAR to continue doing some additional hydraulic modeling. We've been doing some actually in-field test results just to make sure that the modeling still works out with which is actually happening in the system, and it does seem to be following on course. Another thing we're going to ask PAR to be looking at is to look at a system-wide storage analysis for the district as a whole. And whether do we need to have the storage? The Fountain Avenue tank provides minimal storage to begin with, but I would like them to just look at it and whether we need to include maybe a new tank altogether that would have a higher elevation, similar to the Metacom tank, so we continue to have good pressure and not impact the water age. So we're going to continue with the tank offline while we continue to do that analysis. We'll also put out the RFP for our cell infrastructure at the same time.
How much of property is around that tank?
It's not a lot.
It's like a big. It's surrounded by houses.
Yeah, and it's on, and there's a lot of ledge.
So
How old is that tank? Old.
Early 1900s, it's old.
Old.
they would come in with their generator in there and everything else. I don't know if the surrounding residents would be amiable to that.
It's not a historic tank like that.
It's just a waste tank.
No, I'm just saying, if they come in and they stop in a generator to keep their stuff on, the big battery pack.
No, I mean the construction of the tank, it's not historic like the Oak Street one.
Oh,
That one's all rivets, isn't it? The Oak Street tank?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
rivet steel.
Who's preparing the RFP for Verizon, for?
Cell services.
We will. We will. There's many examples out there. I mean, many
Yeah.
a lot of water agencies have already gone through the process. Obviously, when we look at kind of a lease agreement, we will make sure that everything's aligned. We'll have Mr. Keo review as well.
Would it have like minimum terms, like 20-year lease, or is it just a?
I think typically they're like a 5-year lease with options to renew.
Yeah.
There's got to be at least some
That's
minimal term. There's obviously infrastructure that they have to, some capital to put out, so they want to make sure they at least have some term.
Yep.
So the town of Barrington, and Verizon, there's two separate expressions of interest.
The former vice chair of the council reached out to the Barrington delegation, the three of us essentially, to ask how Verizon could be able to utilize that tower.
Okay, so it's not like the town wants to use it for police or fire or something like
It
that?
was just the town was kind of
Yeah.
offering Verizon a lending hand on how to improve coverage in Western Barrington.
Good. Any questions?
sounds like a feeling. Find out where it is.
You want to take a picture?
Just to see it.
Right by St. Louis Church.
Yeah.
So John, in all the years here, have you ever heard of, I'm saying this in a joking manner, have you ever heard of Barrington being referred to as the low service area and the rest of the district being the highest service?
It's been friendly. It's
Well,
nice.
that's what's nice.
I'm just wondering about that. I'm just asking a question. Okay, we're moving into our marathon executive session. I'm looking for a motion to go into the executive session.
So moved.
And let me ask for a clarification from our attorney. Do we need to read all of the different citations?
Or you can refer to them if they can,
Or I can,
refer to the agenda and they can be noted.
oh, okay. All right. So the purpose of going to an executive session is as stated in the agenda for the meeting tonight. And so we have a motion and a second to go into executive session. Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're going into executive session.
Do you want to start with the first two?
Okay, can I get a motion to seal the minutes from the executive session?
No move, yes.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Okay, the,
Can I just to come back?
yes, you can get Steve back.
No.
No?
Yeah.
Jesus.
The, okay, so, all right, now we have do we have actual vote in open session now?
Yes.
Yeah, we do that, right, yes.
Except for one.
Whoever made the motion,
Okay.
whoever made the motion stated.
A motion, I'm looking for a motion to approve the 3-year labor and employment law services agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, I missed that.
All right.
You're right,
Which
I did.
one, you just approve waiver?
Yep, okay. Motion to see whether it's okay. I need a motion to approve the 3-year legal services agreement. So,
Second.
okay, I have motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You didn't say to who?
Approval to Coe and Sweeney.
Keel and Sweeney.
Services.
You didn't say to who?
To me.
Motion
No, I
to
didn't.
approve
Yeah, so we have to
Coe and
approve-
Sweeney
He just.
for the 3-year legal service agreement.
We
Okay.
have to do the other one, yeah.
Which
Waiver.
one?
You didn't-
Yeah, no, yeah, okay.
They didn't say who they were.
Into the firm.
He and Sweeney, who did those guys. This is, yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the contract for 3-year labor and employment law services agreement with Wayland Parente and Flanders LLP?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And,
Yeah, he made a motion for Keel.
got a new employee. Could I, we have a board vote. I need a motion to approve the executive director's evaluation and his salary increase of 5%.
So moved.
Second.
Second,
I got it.
little flags or something.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's a unanimous.
Thank you.
And
Motion to table the executive director annual goals.
is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Second. And all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's unanimous. The next scheduled meeting will be on March 27th, 2025. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I have one question.
What?
I got a package of stuff that came in confidential for this session, the executive session.
Should we leave this here?
Yeah,
It can be in the confidential envelope, that sort of makes sense.
Yeah.
do we want to leave that here?
Did their proposals indicate they were being kept confidential? I don't,
I think proposals are.
Yeah,
What's
so
that?
everybody's, because their
proposals
numbers are in there,
Okay.
so I wouldn't want that to be.
all right.
Contracts are.
Okay, everybody turn in their proposal sheets for the law, the community services, number 12 and 13.
They should, all of this package.
Should we go the entire executive session package?
Wouldn't hurt.
Okay, the entire executive session package, okay. All right, we have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Thank you, everybody. See you for another 3 years.